President Zelensky says that US and Ukraine negotiators have made significant progress in this matter of security guarantees for Ukraine. Do you feel that US would commit providing air power to such mission inside Ukraine in case of Ukraine accepting Article 5-like security guarantee?
Well, it's very difficult to get inside President Trump's mind, but what I can read is America's actions, not its words. America is withdrawing troops from Europe. It is focusing on China. It has been very clear that Ukraine is not a member of NATO, and therefore, but it is on the European continent, and therefore it's a European problem to solve. And I think one of the things we're seeing, Daniel, is a profound history books will be written about this, that for the last 80 years, Europe's security largely has rested on NATO, a US-led NATO that has prevailed. By the end of the Cold War, 35 years ago, most Western nations reduced their defense budgets significantly. America kept theirs much the same. And that created friction between America and Europe. All of a sudden now, I mean, the first time Trump was in power, he said we've got to increase defense spending. 2/3 of NATO were not doing that. When he came back into power for his second term, still Europe was not spending that money. I think what we're seeing is a concerted effort by President Trump to look at Europe and say, Europe, you've got to step up. You can't rely on America being the big brother and fighting these battles on your behalf. We are focused on China. Europe, you need to be focused on Ukraine. And that's a massive wake-up call at the moment, because no European country has got spare money, but they are more and more determined to see what they can do to increase the level of support required for Ukraine, because that is what's needed to bring this war to an end.
Overnight, Ukrainian air forces have intercepted most of Russia's missiles flying inside Ukraine, and they mostly used the US-made F-16 fighter jets. So pilots in Ukraine's F-16 fighter jets, according to the most recent information, have managed to intercept most of Russian missiles fired at Ukrainian targets. So even more missiles were intercepted by F-16, but not by the ground launchers. What is your assessment of this another tendency?
The F-16 is a very capable aircraft, and I'm delighted to see the Ukrainians use it. But when I spoke to pilots in Ukraine when I was last there, they're very frustrated because the F-16 has a lot of potential, but it needs to be used in the way that it was designed. Western air power, we have independent air forces. Ukraine, you have an air force that's part of the army and therefore largely provides airborne artillery. Getting those F-16s to be used as effectively as they can be. Now, shooting down cruise missiles is not a bad way to use an F-16. It's got a great radar. The challenge, of course, is that you need to use missiles, either heat-seeking or radar missiles, to shoot those down. Those missiles are very expensive, and you don't have many of them. So whilst, yes, it's a very effective way of targeting and shooting those missiles out of the sky, to my knowledge, you have a limited supply of those air-to-air missiles, and therefore you'll need to get more of those, and quickly, if that's the way you're going to be shooting down those very capable, very dangerous cruise missiles.
And really most final question for you for the next year, your prediction. What is your feeling about the end of this war? How close are we to a deal probably next year? Do you feel that we are moving forward to a peaceful settlement, or at least temporarily ceasefire on the ground?
The short answer is no. And one of the reasons I believe that is because there's no sign that President Putin wants to stop. If I was an advisor to President Putin at the moment, a military advisor, I'd tell him to keep going. He is watching NATO fall slightly, cracks appear. He's watching America interests move away. He's watching Europe flounder, working out what to do. And on the battlefield, he is moving forward and therefore seems to be en route to achieving his objectives, however long it takes him. I do think the West has the ability to put a lot more pressure on President Putin. I said if we could get Tomahawk missiles into your hands, I think that would make life a lot easier for you targeting Russian energy infrastructure. And if more work could be done there, I think that funds the war and would make life a lot more difficult for President Putin. I also think that more sanctions and a no-fly zone, I do hope that Europe steps up more and starts to stand proud and force Putin's hand, because if it doesn't, I think there could be another very difficult year ahead for Ukraine.
And also for Russia, just the final point, recently, we didn't discuss this, but Russian oil prices have fallen to their lowest levels since 2022 to just $40 a barrel. Do you feel that this would be sustainable for Russia to just move forward despite all economic pressure, because this is high price for Russian people for this war?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And that's what I mean about economic pressure. If you look at the Russian economy, there's a lot more money going out than coming in at the moment. And when you rely on a high price for oil and they're not getting that because China and India, the main people buying that oil, are able to do a very good deal, drive the prices down a lot. But I do think still, you've still got a lot of money flowing into the Russian coffers funding this war, and it will take a major shift in order for economically President Putin to call a halt to the war. I think far more likely is doing those long-range attacks, but also Europe standing proud and saying enough is enough. That's far enough, Putin. The war has to stop now. Give Putin an off-ramp, and then maybe there's a chance of a negotiated settlement. But I would say, as we approach the Christmas period here in the UK, the one thing I've always been impressed by is the amazing resilience of Ukrainians. Each time I've visited, there's a spirit, a courage, a tenacity that I'm absolutely proud of. And whatever happens in the future, I'm very confident Ukraine in some form will survive and will grow to be a very powerful and proud nation, and will look back at this dreadful chapter of its life, but will look back and know that they were the foundations of the strong Ukraine that I'm convinced Ukraine will be again.